and Phoenix Psychedelics event. So sorry to interrupt all of your beautiful conversation, but we're going to get started here. And so tonight we've got a very special guest. I have Sabina Malinalli next to me, a friend of mine. She's driven all the way down from Sedona today to share her wonderful wisdom with us. For those of you who have been here for a while, you might have remembered she came and spoke last year on ritual and ceremony, and that was a really cool topic, and we all got to learn a lot, so that was fun. She's going to talk a little bit more about sacred embodiment tonight, and we're going to have a nice, fun, wide-ranging conversation. So I will allow Sabina to introduce herself, kind of kick off the talk a little bit, and then we're just going to kind of do it sort of podcast style and open forum like we've done before. So if you guys have questions about things, or something that she's speaking about comes up, resonates with you, just kind of, even if you want to just kind of like raise your hand or something, even Jerry doesn't have to wait till the end of the talk. We'll keep this very conversational. So if there's something that's really, powerful on your heart, just kind of try to make some kind of eye contact with me, and I'll try to do my best to have it flow. So please share.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming, for being here. Rather if you were aware of the topic tonight, which is Soul Manifesting an Embodiment, or if you just happen to pass by, thank you. I'm grateful that you're here. I also want to take this moment to express my gratitude to the Psychedelic Society, and to also take a moment to think of all the people that have been involved in the past, in this present, that allow us for us to be here and to be able to talk about psychedelics, and to not be some topic that is super taboo or something that we're scared or afraid to come together in a big group of people and to share our stories, our journeys. So just thinking about that there was a time in our humanness that we were not able to come together or to talk about these journeys. And now I'm so grateful to be alive with all of you and to be able to, just talk about that and express, and to really tap into that cognitive freedom that we have now, to explore our consciousness, to go deep into the landscapes of our soul, and to also to explore more about who we are through our own methods, through our own connection to source, to ourselves, but also when we come in community, when we can share and tell each other our own teachings and our own transmissions, and we all get to kind of compare notes of like, oh, this happened to me in that other state, this happened to you, and we all get to have a glimpse of how everyone is doing in their journeys. So thank you for that, for showing up, for being here, for all the plant medicines, the substances that allow us to tap deeper into our own truth, our own wisdom, and to learn more about our own human existence. And with that, I already introduced a little about myself. I'm Sabina. I do psychedelic integration too. I have been working with plant medicines, with psychedelics for the past 10 years. They have been a big transformational part of my life, of my journey. And eventually that allowed me to find my way into embodiment, which is something I'm going to talk more about that. But before I move into something that really lights me up, which is this conversation and of course other states of consciousness, I want to invite you all to whatever you are doing, just take a moment and just be here, to know that whatever you were before, it doesn't matter. You are here. You chose to be here in this moment that will never come back, that will never repeat, that you are with this group of people, hopefully that you feel that are your tribe, that you feel comfortable to be yourself, to be seen. And probably it's been a long day for you. You have been moving around the city, and this is a good time for you to connect with yourself, with your body, with your heart, with all the million thoughts that are crossing your mind in just one day. And allow the mind to give a break, allowing the heart to be present, to know that inside this magical body of yours, you have a heart that beats, that holds the soul blueprint of your soul, that allows you to experience life through feelings, sensations, emotions. And for this moment, in this time and space, we get to be alive all together. When you receive the best of this moment, make it count, because we're counting on you. to feel aligned, to find your path, and to know that the inner work that you are doing matters more than ever. And thank you, and thank yourself for this moment. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Nice way to open it. Yeah, so I think for individuals that maybe don't know, haven't had a chance, haven't had the beautiful opportunity of meeting Sabina yet, maybe tell them a little bit about yourself, kind of where you came from, how you got to be up here on stage, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about the topic tonight. So.
Yeah, so my journey started a while ago when I was not feeling really in my body. I realized I was experiencing life just moving, like something was pushing me, and I was just going through life, through every moment, trying to check off the boxes, you know, like achieving one thing after another. Sometimes even beating myself for not doing what it was expected from me. As a Latin Mexican woman, I felt I was carrying a lot of archetypes and expectations from my own culture that never felt like were truly mine. So when I started exploring a little more, I felt that there was something out there that needed to be, you know, tuned in, like Beth says, that I needed to remove some layers that were feeling like a burden for me, and I didn't even know where that was coming from. And I knew that even though I was connected to something bigger than myself, I was not really connected to my body, to the full potential that I was having to experience my own humanness. I one day woke up and I felt like I'm alive, and yet I don't feel alive. I feel like I'm just living in between worlds, like something is missing in life, like that spark, that real like enjoyment of, oh, I chose to incarnate in this human vessel. How do I really feel my senses? How do I really enjoy being me, who I am? I was not feeling that. And that got me on a journey of being very depressed. I spent so much time, having a lot of like thoughts about like, why am I here? Like, why are we all here? And nothing seemed to have sense. And eventually I found my way into having a mushroom journey. I was at a festival at that time. There was nothing like super sacred about that, or like, oh, we're doing ceremony. Just someone came to me and offered them, and I was like, wow, I haven't done this before. It's been something I wanted to do in my consciousness. But there I was in like a big festival with a ton of people, no harm reduction, no awareness, just, okay, I'm gonna do it. And the moment I tried them, everything shifted for me. Like that desire of knowing that there was something missing in my life suddenly changed, and I felt like I finally landed in my body. Like for the first time, I felt my soul landing and telling me of all the things that I had been missing out from not exploring the full potential of having a human body. And it was beyond just the five senses or satisfying my needs of like pleasure or eating or being well rested. It was more, what can you do with this body so that you feel that life source is moving through you, is moving with you? And I remember I was in the ground and I was barefoot, and I felt the full connection to the earth in a way that I haven't felt before. And that was a really shifting moment of my life, of knowing that I was feeling like I was not belonging, to suddenly realizing that I was belonging to my body, that home was my body, that I was a daughter of the earth. And all those times that I felt lost, that I didn't belong to a tribe or a community or people or even in my own home country, it all kind of dissipated, and it blew me away to have that sensation of, oh, I live here and I don't even know this vessel that I chose to incarnate. And that took me to a journey of embodiment.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if that was kind of the beginning phases, where did you go from there? I mean, that sounds like that was kind of quite an altered sort of experience from what you had known up until that point. Like, where did the journey take you from there? What was kind of the next steps in terms of, keeping that going? Did it fade? Did it grow? Did it feel like it stayed? What did you do next?
I feel before that I was really afraid to occupy a space. And when I say occupy space, I'm not just talking about public spaces as a female woman. I mean like occupy space in my own body, always feeling contracted, always feeling like I was walking with pains in my body. And I have a dear mentor that told me one day, like, your issues are in your tissues. And all that was happening in me, it was like very related. It's like all these stories I have been carrying that I haven't released, I feel them in my body. And then I start dancing, and my culture is very common to dance, to do salsa dance, but it was never available to explore free movement or to explore our capacity to just tap into a movement that is not guided or that you have to do in a social situation. So for me, it was reclaiming my birthright to be sensual for the first time with my own spirit, with my own body, and recognize new movements that wanted to emerge, that wanted to be revealed without the fear that, oh, someone is just watching at me. It was more like, this is my body, this is how I want to be planted in the earth, in the land, and walk as someone that is proud to have a spirit moving inside. And recognizing eventually how so many people that I start meeting along the journey were feeling constricted to even show up in dance spaces. They will like try to hide, or they will tell me that they need to use substances to just be able to reveal themselves or to feel comfortable even being in their bodies. And to me that really like blew me away. Like, why do we need the permission of someone else to feel that we're really in our bodies? To feel that we can just show up and be like, planted and present, to use our movements, and no one is like, oh, you're crazy because you want to like skip as you like do groceries. It's like, yeah, I can do my groceries and be dancing, and these people watch me like, why you are not doing that? Like, you are the weird one for not being doing your own dance. So yeah, it was that journey and that pain that I was carrying, not just in my tissues, but I realized it was in my own soul, for not being able to express fully what was inside, which is my spirit. And when I talk about soul manifesting, it's so amazing that psychedelics mean that, soul revealing or soul manifesting, and how they were a teacher and an enabler to tap into that wisdom, to really know like, oh, okay, talk, who lives inside, who is there, what wants to come out when I don't restrict you, when I don't judge you, when I allow you the freedom and the capacity to create a movement that will express how you feel, who you are. Because no one is going to do your dance, no one is going to walk the way you walk, no one is going to have the gestures that you have acquired based on who you are, your stories, your experiences, and also the time that you have been evolving in your life. If you think about yourself, like, probably 10 years ago, you were not in the same embodiment that you are today. And I found that very fascinating with our own psychedelic journey. Like, the moment that someone takes a psychedelic and where they are at in their embodiment, and how that starts shifting and transforming and evolving, also with the way they become more aware of a relationship with their bodies, with themselves, with the earth, with the divine.
Yeah, I think dance has been a big part of your life and your world, increasingly more so over the last probably decade or so. Little side note, I'll just share that Sabina brought me to my first festival, taught me how to do that whole scene, and really helped me to become more comfortable in my own self. I'll even share a little bit of my own story. Same thing, right? Of feeling like embarrassed or not comfortable taking up space. I'm a big guy, right? And I got a giant wingspan. It feels awkward sometimes to be in spaces that aren't necessarily designed for individuals my size. And I've struggled with that at different points in my own life too. And I just want to say thank you to you for helping me to feel more comfortable being out there in the world, expressing myself. And it's been a huge benefit that I've brought into my life. So I'll just share that for all of you out there. If you're considering it, highly recommend it. But dance isn't for everyone. I mean, I think it actually is, but maybe not at all points in time for everyone. People might not always agree with that for themselves, and that's cool. So maybe just talking about some other ways that you kind of had that similar, maybe even you or other people or whatever, other practices that, maybe dance is for me, or I've already got dance nailed down, like what else kind of thing, like what other, paths class have you taken that have kind of given you some similar benefits as that?
Yeah, I love that question because something I have learned from people taking psychedelics is they come back and they always tell me, this was amazing, I love it, but I just want to stay in that state of being in the ethereal, of having that connection with the divine, of always being in that elevated state, which is beautiful. I mean, I love it too, but the reality is that we live in this realm. The reality is that our souls don't live in the ethereal, they live in this body. And if we don't know how to come back from a journey and really regroup in our bodies, then we are like missing that bridge, that opportunity to really do that, like soul manifesting, soul revealing in this incarnation. So one of the practices I always recommend is dance, because dance also mimics moving our life force. The way we dance is very similar to our own like sensuality. And some people don't have that very available, so it's a good way to get in touch with your own pleasure, with your own life source moving, with how you love. Like the way you dance is the way you do everything in life, with small movements or big movements, contraction or expansion. But then if that is not available for you because it's too soon to start dancing, something I do recommend is finding movements that allow you to feel your body more deeply. And at first it can be uncomfortable, especially if you have been carrying a lot of pain in your body or shame. It's not that easy. So baby steps, you start simple, you can start looking at yourself in the mirror and just recognizing yourself. Maybe you're seeing at yourself for the first time with new eyes, like, hey, this is me, this is my body, and no one gets to tell me any beauty standard or how I should be looking or what I should be doing. Like, this is me. Can I friend me as I am in this moment, in this incarnation, without putting any other pressure than that? And start seeing the movement. Like, if you think about, like right now, I can wave at all of you. I'm waving, and that's acceptable. I'm just like saying hi, and all of us can do that. But then there's that gentle moment that me waving can turn into a very subtle gesture. And it transformed from being a normal waving to something that can be considered a dance. So it's all about the connotation that we give to a movement. Because it can be a simple gesture, but it also can transform into, I'm just letting to see what my body can do when I'm not restricting. That is just one gesture. One gesture to another can take you into the next movement. And then knowing that in each pulse that you take with your body, you are getting to listen to something new. Your body holds all the wisdom that already received within yourself. And if you obstruct that, you're already stopping that flow, that connection of life flow that was given to you. And again, only you knows the soul blueprint that you have been carrying. And if you don't allow yourself to explore that, then it's staying there, it's contained. And most of the pain and the burden that we carry sometimes is just because we don't get that opportunity to know what is truly inside of us and how can we allow an outlet for that to happen. So yeah, any practice that makes you feel like you are in your body, like yoga, like running, like doing something simple as I'm just gonna stand up here and see what is alive in my body, doing a body scan, checking with your body, sending some gratitude to body parts that you have been feeling like stagnancy or pain or even shame. Is, can I meet my body with the same compassion and tenderness and love that I will meet my child or a good friend or even my dog? Can you give that to yourself for a moment?
Yeah, I like that. I think one thing that might be interesting to explore, because I know you've done a lot of practices of pushing boundaries and edges. Been up on stage doing dances and different things like that, and you know, just kind of, yeah, just pushing those like natural, like, oh, there's a little bit of reservation or hesitation here, but I'm going to do it anyways. So curious if you want to dive into that a little bit, or what, like how you've gotten yourself past those like perceivable boundaries, and also then on the back end of having done that, like what is that, you know, what has that meant to you?
Yeah, so when it comes to feeling and manifesting something, it all comes through movement, through how I embody myself. But that doesn't mean that I was always like that. Like, I remember one time I was living in Minnesota, I was living a completely different life, and I knew that there was something missing, but I didn't know exactly what. It was something that was still emerging in my soul. So I started doing the movement and bringing awareness of what it is that I want. And I wanted to be close to my soul tribe. I wanted to be meeting new people. I wanted to live in nature. I wanted, to be just more happy than I was in that moment. And I wanted to live in warm weather. So I started moving. More than dancing, was moving. So using my awareness to shift that. Of course, coming back from some psychedelic journeys, and really making movements that were already making me feel that I have landed in that state of being. So I started dancing and moving, feeling like I was already living in a place that I was fulfilled, that I was finding new people, that I was in a warm weather. And eventually I ended up moving to Sedona and really finding my tribe in Sedona and my people. And it all started not because I thought like, oh yeah, I'm worth it of one day popping up in Sedona. It was more like, what can I do that my embodiment and the way I want to show up in life matches my vibration, matches my body, and that my DNA inside can really be restored to believing that it's possible for me to achieve that. So it was a full practice of, as you say, pushing the edge, the state I was at, what I wanted to achieve, and the feeling of that, but not just through the mind or doing a vision board. I was actually using my body as that vision board to achieve that state and eventually show up in the space. So when I was tapping into, for example, the energy of Sedona, I was like, I've never been in Sedona in my life, but I imagine Sedona feels like a high vibration energy. How does that feel in my body? Can I move that energy and believe that my body already arrived into that location? And that to me allowed me to manifest a lot of things.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about there is really describing embodiment, right? Like how can we, we have these perceived states that we want to exist in, or maybe we exist in temporarily, and how can we anchor that in our body? And I just want to repeat kind of in my own words what you said there. I know you and I have talked about it a number of times, but that future state, right? Instead of being like, oh, when I ... then I will feel ... It's like, no, I'm going to feel that right now, and that's going to be part of the catalyst that causes us to move in that direction, to exist in different ways, right? It's almost like kind of almost thinking about it backwards of how we typically do. So I don't know if you have any other examples of when you've done that in life, or times where you've kind of okay, I'm going to embody this. I mean, great example of moving to Sedona, but I know you've done that a number of times where you've, I want to be this way. Okay, let me practice it sort of almost ahead of time or something, so that when that arrives, I can already feel like there's some, I don't know, some anchor within you, or however you would describe it. But
I would say a great example of that has been through psychedelic journeys. I have experienced visions of different versions of myself that are not even there. And just bringing that awareness, that realm of possibilities, like, hey, one day you're gonna be that, not because I imagine that, but because I know it's part of my soul's blueprint, and that reality, that embodiment already exists within myself. But now I'm just giving the possibility that it can happen already, and believing it's possible. And a great example is becoming an aunt, for example. One day I imagined that, oh, my sister was gonna have kids and I'm gonna be an aunt, but I'm not an aunt yet. Yet I feel the energy of loving my nephews and playing with them and being the best aunt in the world. And just that sensation of this is possible because this archetype, this energy is already inside of me, allowed me to, when I received the news of, okay, I'm gonna be an aunt, I knew I was going to be a great aunt because I felt that energy before, and I wanted to show up in that way for myself and for my nephews.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to maybe draw on the audience participation a little bit. Has anyone had any other examples of that, or any questions around that specific topic of embodiment? Has anyone else had any experiences like that? Any challenges with it? Any questions around that? Any comments? Yeah, Hector?
With me, I've had challenges. So I used to be able to do a lot of things with my body. I used to be very flexible. And within a short period of time, probably 3 or 4 years, I had over 9 falls, each one with head trauma. And basically I went from a place where I was very flexible and I was able to do all sorts of yoga and things like that, to a place where my body feels like a cage. Breathing, okay, was difficult. And it's very, very tight. It's very restricted. It's very braced because all the fascia is like still in those consecutive traumas of falling and getting hurt. And they were like massive falls. So, but I want to get the hell out of that space and enjoy my body the way I used to. Any suggestions?
Well, first of all, you're so brave for being here, for remaining in your body regardless of the pain that you have experienced. I can imagine it's not easy to know like your body used to be this way and now you need to adapt to a new reality where your body is functioning in a new way. So more than a suggestion, I would say, like, can you give yourself that compassion of knowing that this is the body I chose and this is the journey I have been going. So in this timeline, knowing that right now my body may feel like a cage, but there was a time that my body was enabling me to live a completely different life. And for you to know that, you know, everything is temporary. Like that state that you are in right now may not necessarily be the state that you are going to be for the next days. So how can you continue to be in the pain of this cage, in the knowing that the experience from the past can be bring into the present, the more you nurture your present and send love to all these areas of your life, and to activate the inner wisdom and the inner healing that you have in your body, and all the support that is available right now through gentle movement, but also other substances that can support you in, you know, just tapping into that state of mind.
I would just add too, just in terms of what we've been talking about, kind of just to tee off of what she said there, like, if as much as you can, being able to sort of embody, like, how would I hold myself if I didn't feel this pain, right? Like, how would I move if I wasn't so constricted, right? And I know maybe you can't entirely physically do that, but even trying to put yourself in that future mental state, to exist in that, to believe that it's true, to have that possibility, to try to invite that in as much as possible, and allow that to kind of be the seed a little bit, if you will, to kind of maybe allow the body to move in a new direction. You know, obviously it might take some time or whatever, but you know, in terms of embodiment, that's kind of one way to practice that, if you will. So, yeah. Anybody else before we move on? Yeah, John?
I'm probably the least likely to speak to this because I always looked at people who could dance and move. And I can never do that. Now I'm older. This is the body that I have, and so it's like, can I do that? But for me, it's been systematic. I mean, it's been sequential in the. I went through integration with Troy. I got right to the edge, and then I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to humiliate myself in front of Troy. But then the opportunity for ecstatic dance came up, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to try that. So that was very freeing for me, and I experienced that. It was great fun. And then some of the journeys that I had on my own with mushrooms, I would get up and start to move and be like, wow, it is going to move. And then we went to the men's retreat, and I just determined to go with it. And for the first time, I think that I found the energy. Like, especially through the mushrooms, when I did the mushrooms, like, I went through some stuff through the more, I call it the more serious part of that journey. But then the latter half, I found the energy, and I stood up and I wanted to move, and I found that if I brought my breath in from here and expelled it, that it like made the energy stronger. My hands started doing things that I didn't recognize. I mean, it felt normal, but it wasn't for me. I crossed some boundaries that I thought I would never cross, but for me it was important. And then the interesting thing is when I got home, through that whole week, I couldn't talk to anyone without doing, like I was telling my friends stuff, and it would be like, this. So I don't know if that's embodiment or not, but I can literally feel the energy in my arms when I was doing this. And we went to a drum circle, and it was like, gee, I have a lot more rhythm than I ever knew possible. And then pretty soon I was up moving again. Anyway, that was my experience. I don't know, I didn't have a word for it. But it was
Embodiment.
lots of fun.
That's your soul manifesting through your body. So I cannot fully see your soul right now, but when you move, when you start talking with your hands, there's an animated being telling me a story that is being spoken through your movements, through your body. It's giving your body the possibility to be that vessel, that instrument that can be an extension of what is inside of your soul, of your spirit.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, John. I'll admit, I don't know if anyone else is brave enough to admit, has anyone like looked at themselves dancing on a video or in front of the mirror and thought, geez, I move weird? Anyone else ever done that? Man, why stop doing that? I don't want to do that in front of anyone else. There's that kind of self-judgment or whatever it is. I think we all have some of that or have had some of that at some point in our lives. And, kind of like Sabina's talking about, we have to, don't have to, but we have the opportunity to push through that, right, and to see what's on the other side. And I think there's a lot of beauty and freedom on the other side of that, just like you found, right, that there was some resistance. You shared about that. There was some resistance to take that step, to take that leap, to push beyond what you felt like might be a perceived boundary there. But there's also beauty on the other side of that, right? You get to experience a new part of ourselves. We get to exist in a new way. And then the more we do that, the more we practice it, the easier it becomes, hopefully, right? So I don't know if you have anything you want to share about that. But.
Yeah, and I also believe it's part of removing that social conditioning of the things that we think we cannot do or that someone imposed on us to not do. Can you imagine your life right now at this point, at this stage, if someone when you were little told you, it's okay to dance, you can move in any way you want, and it's acceptable, it's okay, in fact, it's expected from you that you go through life dancing, like probably you will be a different incarnation of who you are today. You will be more permissive of how you move, how you show up, and less restrictive, and less like inner critic of like, oh, I should just sit this way or move this way, or someone is watching me, I should like tone it down. Like, no. Like, there's a soul that needs to be expressed in the movement. That's why we chose to be humans in a body, so that we can use this experience.
One of the things that I like to tell people who are new to psychedelics is I like to cite the fact that the language processing center only exists in the left hemisphere of the brain. So if you're only allowing yourself to do what you can either justify to yourself or to the other narratives in your head, then you're leaving half of yourself unspoken. And it's about giving yourself stage time and not being like, I need to be able to describe this before I do it. You're suppressing a huge amount of your own personality when you don't give your unspeaking self stage time.
Thank you so much for that reminder. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful reminder, and I wanna let this like flow out beyond just dancing. I think dancing is amazing and an incredible practice, but really, part of what we're talking about with this manifestation is about body movement or being alive and present and comfortable in our bodies. And I think all of us who have done plant medicines have had some probably uncomfortableness in our bodies with medicine. I know I have. I very rarely do some kind of medicine and there isn't some physical uncomfortableness that I find within my body at some point in that journey. And so there's an obvious correlation there that the more comfortable we can get with our bodies, maybe our body wants to move in a way under the influence of mushrooms or something, and we're like, no, that's weird, I'm in a group ceremony, like, what will people think? Or even you're at home by yourself, and like, no, I don't normally sit like that, or I don't walk outside on the grass with my shoes off, or like, whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter what the thing is, but giving ourselves more allowance and freedom to be and move and exist in ways that maybe we normally wouldn't. But that might be very beneficial when we're in that state. Again, to your point, it might not have to make sense, right?
There are less rules than you think.
much less, yeah. And when we try to, put these concepts, these experiences into words, they fail sometimes, right? There just isn't, sometimes the stuff doesn't fit in that. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and something I find quite fascinating is to recognize the intersection between psychedelic people and spaces like static dance or yoga, for example. Like most of people there, they don't just one day woke up thinking like, oh, I'm gonna join this static dance group or this yoga group. Like, I hear a lot of stories like the medicine told me that I should move my body and I'm just here. I mean, oh, surprise, so we have this teacher that sent you here so that you can integrate the journey and the teachings in this space of moving the body. So to me, the full circle of what we do, and why we journey, and why we do all this healing, eventually ends up coming all the way back into how much are you moving your body? How much are you tending to your body? Because all these stories, all this healing, all what is happening in the psyche needs an outlet, and that will come through the body.
I think for me, and several people of my relative age group have mentioned about physical limitations and whatnot. And I think for me in my journey, as I have really come to recognize that my body is just a collection of everything I've eaten over the years, and that's it. That is the limit of my body. My body is a machine that serves my soul. And I have come to see that as a partnership between my body and my spirit. And my spirit doesn't ask me to do things I can't do. I can't sit cross-legged. My hips won't go there, I just can't. So when I meditate, when I go through my mala, I sit on a stool because that's comfortable for me. To me, it isn't about the ritual, the routine, what I'm doing. Am I doing the same thing everybody else is doing? It is, to me, I love the dance because, and I've never done that before, but it's, the spirit wants to express joy. The spirit wants to express gratitude, and what a beautiful way to do that. And it's not going to ask me to do things that I can't do, and I don't go to the place where these are things I should do. I should do it like this, or I should do it like that. I just listen and yield. And I have found that partnership works for me, and my spirit, my soul, doesn't take me places that my body can't handle. And that's enough. And that is enough for me.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I hear a lot of trust and freedom in that both, right? Trust in the self, trusting our bodies, trusting our higher self, all of that. Has anyone had a hard time trusting themselves ever and willing to admit that?
Right, or to be in the surrender.
Yeah, surrendering. And then when we're able to trust, when we're able to do these things, on the other side of that, we can find some freedom, right? So as we push back on some of these edges and boundaries, it gives us a little bit more space to exist in, right? A little bit more potential and possibility that we can do. And I think for me, I'll say my practice often is to find those edges and to push back on them a little bit. And sometimes they move, sometimes they're not even there. I just thought there was a fence there, and I go to like touch it, kind of. It's like, oh, there's no fence there. Where's it at, right? And other times I push and it's really solid and hard, and I go, oh, okay, that's a boundary for me right now. I don't want to step over that. So it's not just always about blindly running through fences, right? There has to be some internal trust. But, I don't know if that triggers anything that you want to share, anything that you've worked with in practice.
Also when those moments happen and you feel you have pushed yourself really into the edge of your own movement and body, just remember that you can also alter your own reality by using the 5 senses. So how can you nourish your senses with something that feels comfortable? For example, how can you allow your sense of taste to really take you to places, to really allow you to tap into what you like, new flavors. Like when you are eating your food, can you just pause, slow down, really like have a moment to be with your food, to embody yourself as you embody what the earth is giving to you. Like how can you awaken your sense of hearing when you play music that you like? Maybe you don't need to be moving. Maybe just it's a song that really evokes something in you, that brings an emotion, a feeling, a sensation, or that takes you back in time somewhere. You can do that too. Like remember, we have our 5 senses. The more we can foster the senses and allow our senses to also inform us in a way that brings pleasure and enjoyment of the human experience, that's also an embodiment practices. It doesn't need to always be that big. And we can be just all sitting here and having a sip of our drink. We're like, this is tasty. I feel it in my taste buds. Like that's part of also knowing how we're using our body to experience this human incarnation.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because Kate can actually back me up on this. We were up at Gateway Ranch Mosaic Festival this weekend, and we got to do a beautiful cacao ceremony. And as you remember, I don't know if you had anything to share on that, but it was very like slowing down, getting intentional with the cacao, right? Holding it in your hand, feel the weight of the cup, right? You know, bring it up to your nose, smell it. How does it smell? You know, what does it look like even? Can you, she said, you put it up to your ear even if you want. Maybe you can hear the bubbles popping a little bit or something, and just really like getting close and connected with that medicine. I think that's kind of what you're talking about. So there was just a recent example there, and I thought that was a really beautiful way that we can, we can all do that at any. It doesn't have to be out at Gateway Ranch in a Hogan kind of mud hut thing with 40 strangers in the middle of the desert. Like that's cool, I loved it, but it can also be at your kitchen table on a Tuesday morning or whatever, right? All of these things that we do and we talk about, we really want to make sure that we can land them somehow in our day-to-day life, somehow in our, the process of integration is to take these expansive experiences that we have, that we get opportunities to be a part of or co-create, and then bring them into our, more into the mundane minutia of life, so that we can have it fully integrated and exist more in that space.
Yeah, and also creating your own practice, like make it personal. Like one recipe is not gonna like serve all of us. Like maybe in the mornings you start shifting something instead of getting out of bed right away and rushing into getting ready. Like you take a moment to wake up and fully land on the side of your bed. I mean, I'm awake, I'm alive, and today is gonna be a day that I will make it count. And that's it. It's like 1 minute of you like really doing something different from the rush into I plan myself, I'm awake, like earth, hear me, I'm awake, like life, here I go. And that really like can shift something in your body. Like another practice, for example, when we're taking a shower, it may seem like a very mundane task, we're just in the shower, but can you allow yourself to realize like what you're using is water, it's an element. Can you cleanse yourself from a heavy day? Can you allow yourself to have a connection with water in a new way that is not just this resource that is getting wasted and coming through your like shower? It's like, oh, it's touching my body. Like I'm honored, and I'm privileged to even have running water. So it's creating a new relationship with your environment in a way that you are able to experience that something is shifting, that you're not just living in a mundane realm. To know that the ethereal that we receive in the liminal spaces of other states can also be achieved in this realm if you allow yourself to bring that awe and excitement of being in this body and using it with what you have around you.
Yeah, one other thing I'd love to hear you talk about, you have a very beautiful connection with nature, and I think that a lot of people could probably learn a few things from that. So. And kind of under the umbrella of what we've been talking about tonight, but maybe using nature as one of the, we talked about dance and stuff, but like, different ways that you've used nature, engaged with nature, have that be the catalyst for some of these topics that we're talking about, whether it's the river, cold plunging, some of the vortexes in Sedona, some of the dancing you've done, some of the, other elemental practices that you've gotten involved with. If there's anything that strikes the mind there.
Well, for me, it was fully reframing my connection with the earth. I remember growing up as a girl, my mom would tell me, like, girls do not get dirty. Like, come on, don't be in the ground. I will be coming back and all like full of leaves and earth, and people will be like, you are a girl, like, why are you doing that? But to me, it was the most natural thing in the world to not have to wear my shoes, to play with the mud, to come back home full of bears. Like, to me, that was a well-lived day, but not for my mom. And I feel that stopped at that time my connection with the earth, thinking like, oh, the earth is dirty. If I go down, I'm gonna look dirty, and then I will get judged. But later in life, that was my own healing journey. I remember one time I was also on mushrooms. I was on my own, going around, and my first instinct was, if the earth composed what they don't need, why can't I just lay down and compose whatever is not serving in my body and sending that with love so that the earth can compose that and I can offer that, not just as I'm going to get rid. It's like, I'm getting rid, but I trust the intelligence of the earth to know that there's something there that can be composed there. And that relationship like really shifted my entire reality, to the point that from living in the city, I was like, I'm no longer going to live in the city. I'm going to find a place in nature. And I know not all of us can have the opportunity or the means to stop living in the city. But whenever you are out there, like, just be close to a tree, be close to something that feels natural. We live in a world that everything tends to be plastic or not really that real. So how many times a day can you give yourself the experience and the opportunity to be surrounded by something that is real, that reminds you of the natural world that was given to us?
Yeah, and especially with these plant medicines, right? I mean, they are nature. A lot of times we are communing literally with nature. We are putting nature into our bodies, and so doing it. A lot of you've done plant medicine ceremonies out in nature, and you've also probably done them not out in nature. And I would encourage you to think about the differences between those two experiences, right? I think for me, they've generally been fairly different. There's different ways that we can connect with nature, and how that can, even just that little bit of difference in setting can make such a big difference in our experience of it, and how we embody it, and how we act, how we exist, how the pace of how we are, all of that. So curious if anyone, I don't know if anyone's got any questions, comments on the nature side of things, or any practices they do out in nature that they want to share.
Just that dose matters, because bears. I mean, that's all.
Do you have a story there, Gary?
I think everybody's heard it.
I haven't heard it.
Well, we didn't encounter a bear, but there was a big dog. He didn't like us very much.
Bear-like?
But yeah, it looked like a big bear. But yeah, if you're in nature, just be safe. That's all. Harm reduction.
Yeah, that's really important. I always tell someone, where are you? And,
one other practice that I would highly recommend that Sabina's also introduced me to is being in the creek, going out to the creek and just laying down in the water. And she was just talking about the shower. I think it's even times 10 sometimes when you get to lay in maybe Oak Creek in Sedona, or whichever one you happen to be by, and just allow the water to kind of rush over you, and look up at the leaves and all of that. And it sounds super simple, and it is, but I think sometimes that's been one of my most profoundly emptying and cleansing experiences, have been just kind of like letting go into nature, right? Not resisting it, not trying to fight it, not trying to keep it only in certain parts of my body, or I want to be clean. And it's just like, no, we're allowing nature to kind of just wash over us fully, and that's been really beautiful, both on plant medicine and not as well too. So.
With that being said, how would you encourage starting off on that path?
What do you?
In your experience, how did you experience starting off on the path like that?
Yeah, sure. Initially it was simple. I always try to start off with what's the easiest, what's the most simple thing, right? Versus what's the ideal, what's like the minimum thing I could do that would allow me to actually do it, right? Action being one of the most powerful things in that sense.
And your playbook said to follow this direction, or an inspiration said to go this way. How did you get there?
Yeah, initially it was more taking opportunities or creating opportunities, but initially each time I did it, trying to get a little bit more in tune with nature, a little bit more connected with nature, a little less, as Sabina said, we live in a very plastic, concrete world. I mean, at least I do. I live in Phoenix, and so very disconnected from nature very often, and trying to intentionally reconnect more and more by essentially removing the barriers between me and nature.
Less resistance.
Less resistance to it. Yeah.
I got a story to share.
Let's go with Chris real quick.
Two things. One, I do want to actually echo a sentiment that Gary said at some point last year. I don't remember what talk it was, but I think he said something like, it might sound great going camping and doing these substances, but make sure you know how to go camping first. So it is something good if you're not used to that, and you put yourself in that kind of situation and you're not comfortable, then the setting can get a little off. So just be aware. With that said, I find the synergy between being in nature and these medicines is it's on another level. I've had beautiful experiences in a lot of different settings with different medicines, but when the stars align and you can do something in the right mindset in nature, there's really a whole other level of potency that's available. So I highly recommend it. And again, if you don't have to go camping like far away. It doesn't have to be anything too extreme, but do something that's comfortable. But if you can do it, I highly recommend it.
Thank you. And I just want to add to that, like the elements are big teachers for us too. They are all around us. So the more that we can connect with the elements, with water, being close to the fire, like sitting in a cliff, receiving the air to clean our thoughts. So it's all part of remembering like who we are, because the elements are also part of us and they are inside. So again, when these medicines come, it's just a reminder of these teachers too.
Yeah, and one second. Then you mentioned the stars too. I think we all know that we've all seen the night sky, but for me, I don't know. Again, out at Gateway Ranch, I don't know if Kate, if you looked up at the night sky out there, but it's we were far enough out where there's no light pollution or anything, and it is incredible to be on medicine or not, and just look up at the vastness of the universe that we live in. It's very, very quickly and easily becomes a not so gentle reminder of how small we all are and how insignificant we are, and to just kind of put that self back into check. Right?
And how lucky we are.
And how fortunate we are, right? We're on a spinning ball, hurtling through space, and yet here we all are still alive and doing fun stuff. So I think Frank.
Yeah, so as you were talking about embodiment and sort of trusting how your body might want to move and the connections between your soul and emotion, it put together like an idea for me, or a thought that I wanted to share. There are tons of expressions that we use in ordinary speech that just started coming into mind as we were talking, that are like our normal way of saying embodiment, but we don't actually think about it. So if you say to somebody, "When I saw you, my heart skipped a beat," you're talking about the physical sensation about what's inside of you and trying to find up with words to describe a physical sensation. Likewise, if you say, "That person made my skin crawl," it's a physical body sensation, or "My eyes almost popped out of my head." They're all like our like official way of talking about embodiment, but what's underneath it is a feeling in the body that you're expressing. And so, from the medicine perspective, one of the things I found is that idea of, like, you hear people say in yoga, like, it's heart opening, or you're doing a back bend to open your heart or whatever. What that actually translates into a body feeling is really present on medication, because you actually can feel your heart opening, and then you understand, oh, that's what that expression means. And I think medicines bring that together in a very felt way, which is the embodiment that you're talking about.
Yeah, they are amplifiers of whatever is inside to emerge to the outside. Yeah, beautiful. And as I hear you speak, another way to embody is the more you allow your voice to be used, how you hold yourself when you deliver a message, like that relationship that you need to have to get acquainted with your own voice and open up really your throat chakra to express, to communicate, to show up in the world.
Did you have something on your actor?
No, I just a memory of being in nature and being confronted by nature, sort of like what he talked about. When I used to be in college, I used to go hiking for 45 minutes up the mountains, where there would be like a series of lakes and ponds. to bathe. So instead of showering at home, I would bathe in nature and go skinny dipping. And no matter how cold it was, as long as there wasn't ice and snow on the ground, so I could make my hike safely, I would go up there. And in one particular experience, it was in summer. And I went to one of the lakes that was a larger one, and I was away in the middle of the lake. And I was alone. There was nothing out there except the animals. And I felt the need to pass gas, so I started passing gas in the middle of the water. And then I felt this really weird sensation about something scraping my butthole. And I freaked out. Okay. And as soon as I relaxed, it happened again. It happened like 2 or 3 times. And eventually, I got to a place where I was shallow enough where I could stand up. And I looked down, and I waited, okay? And what slowly started creeping out of the dark water was what I remember, one of the happiest looking catfishes I have ever seen. So, how's that?
Don't relax that much. So I wanted to touch on the healing power of water, because like water did really transform my life before psychedelics did. And I mean, you recently became scuba certified. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what water does. I mean, Blue Mind, all these things that water really does play a huge role. All the elements do, but when you're in water, you're grounded, you're free, you know.
Yeah, I mean, water is life, and we are mostly form of water. There's a lot of water in our bodies. So when we come into bodies of water, it's a good way to co-regulate, because we're getting in tune with that frequency of the water, allowing our own bodies to come into that flow, that cadency of water. And the other thing I want to share is most people think that the most transformational element is the fire, but I think it's actually water. Like when water surrenders to the heat, and when water gives herself into the fire, there's a steam, there's transformation that happens. So it's also a great reminder that when you are in any psychedelic transformational journey and you think of water, it also mimics that journey of becoming something new and different, but remaining in your soul's blueprint, in your soul's essence too.
The ocean, I mean, when you're in 1,000 foot of water, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. I think, I would just share that, you know, the ocean's obviously an incredible place. Very grateful that we have it on our planet, but it's powerful too, right? Nature's got a lot of power behind it, and it requires us to relent. Water in particular, right? The Grand Canyon was carved by water. It's a very, very powerful substance, and for myself, when I was under the ocean, there was a very clear sense that I needed to yield to this, or things weren't going to go well. And it was a very humbling experience, but very a lot of correlations between that and the psychedelic experience. You know, sometimes psychedelics are extremely powerful, and we do have to kind of just allow ourselves to, metaphorically float downstream with it. And when we do, it can be really beautiful. But we have to be willing to do that. And so there are practices like that we can invite into our life to get more comfortable with those sensations, to get more comfortable letting go, not always being fully in charge, or the apex individual in the environment that we're in. So I would highly recommend anyone, if any of you really like the experience of an altered state of consciousness, you will probably also like scuba diving because it is a lot more similar than you might think. So thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else got? Yeah. Go ahead.
Question. I was going to the smoke shop next door, heard a voice going on in here, and thought, well, let's go check this out. And just my first time here, first experience, and for some reason ayahuasca is coming to mind. Am I off base? Am I going? Okay.
Ayahuasca, yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
all right. Still listening.
Cool. Glad you made it. Glad you stumbled in. Might not have been an accident. Who knows? Maybe
You know
ayahuasca started to call you.
It was an accident, and
Happy accident,
everything
right? Bob
happens
Ross.
for a reason.
You're in the right place.
Thank you for
Glad
welcoming me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well that's probably
Yeah. How are we doing?
about time here. Maybe, I don't know, what kind of, if there's anything else you want to say to kind of wrap it up, close it up, maybe take one or two more questions, then we can end with
Yeah.
that.
More questions or?
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else they wanted to share? Okay.
I was just curious, when you work with people, and I really agree, like the issues are in the tissues. I love that. Do you see certain patterns with people with certain traumas, like they hold it in certain areas?
Yeah, so I see a lot of people with pain on the back, on the shoulders, on the chest, even like having breathing issues. And a lot is in the lungs, which is the grief. A lot of people that haven't been able to move grief, they have issues in the lungs. And also, you can see a lot of people when they have been going through a lot of heaviness or burden or trauma, instead of having an open chest, there's always this movement. And even when you start talking about a story that is painful, they go like this. So just allowing the chest to open up a little more. But I do see that pattern a lot. And I even start seeing it with myself. When I go through something, I really check with my body. Am I contracting? Am I carrying a lot in the chest? Am I restricting my heart? Can I remain open even in the discomfort of how much it can hurt? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sorry. And as women, of course, all these stories are also stored in the womb.
Maybe just one last question I'd have for you is if there's any practices of embodiment that you use in your work with clients, or you do your sessions, your shamanic sessions, that kind of stuff, drumming, any of that stuff that might be helpful or interesting to share about.
Yeah, something I love to work with is the drum. I find it fascinating how we can create an altered state of mind without any substance by using the drum. Like that beating, allow the mind to fully relax. And that way the subconscious mind is more receptive to messages, to stories. So whenever I'm channeling a shamanic journey and I get to use archetypes or stories that I'm channeling for them, it's all related to their field. For example, there's someone that once was in a shamanic journey, and what came very strongly was a dragon, but I wouldn't use the dragon to someone that is more in a mental space and is not able to open their imagination, for example. So all these archetypes, the same way that they come in plant medicine journeys or with other psychedelics, is very similar in a shamanic journey. They will come as language that is so unique to your soul, to your subconsciousness. So yeah, using the drumming is something that you can do on your own, finding instruments that really resonate with you. For example, using a rattle is a very simple instrument. Like even when we were babies, probably we got a toy that resembled like a rattle, and in that moment it was not like, hey baby, you get your shamanic rattle, but it was more like this toy that sounded and that will suit you or that will shift your mood. It's the same as an adult. We can find our own toys that will enable us to shift our own energy and our own space with sound.
Do you know anything about altars? And could you just, if you do, could you just tell us everything you know about them?
I love
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So just to wrap that up, I highly recommend using an altar, what you're trying to manifest, and including movement. So you have the full trifecta. A sacred space where you can have your practice, really the awareness of what it is that you are trying to heal or to bring into your life, and then using your body as this vehicle. So, full thing. Thank you.
And then I would just kind of add that, if as we're thinking about this stuff, we try to take some of this out with you in your pocket, if you will, like how to, it's been a very wide-ranging conversation, I get that tonight. Just to kind of maybe put in a little pocket-sized card that you can all take with you. Just think primal. That's what I think. This kind of stuff, think primal, right? Fire, nature, water, drumming. These are all things that we've been doing for centuries, if not millennia, as a people. And why do we keep doing it? We don't need to drum anymore. We don't need, we have artificial heat. We don't need to stand or sit around a fire. We have artificial light. We don't need to go outside and look at the stars. We can make stars in here or whatever. yet we still do. There's still some reason, there's still something that pulls us towards that. And so just kind of being about like reconnecting with that. You know, it's, a lot of times I find with these medicines, it's not so much about learning something new, it's more about unlearning some practices or habits that maybe aren't as healthy or beneficial as we maybe thought they were, or taught or were told that they were, and kind of getting back to some more of those really core, foundational, what I call primal sort of activities, habits, any of that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and at the end, we're all tribal beings. It's in our natural essence to do this kind of practices. So at this point in your life, ask yourself, what can I do to tap again into what feels like my true essence? Because no one can tell you that. Only you and your own inner explorations can take you into knowing what it is that is your true essence.
Beautiful. So I think we'll wrap up there. Do you guys know who we have talking next Monday? I can't remember.
It's Dr. Mel.
Dr. Mel,
Dr.
yes,
Mel.
Dr.
What is she speaking of?
And she's actually going to talk a little bit more about pre and post care using light technology like the Anja light
Okay.
And that
supplements
grounding
and
thing
things
or
like
something,
that.
wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So,
pre and
okay,
post.
okay. So just for, if you all didn't hear that, Dr. Mel with Butterfly Holistic, she works with ketamine and a few other medicines and stuff. She's going to come and talk about some pre and post care stuff, and she always has a lot of interesting things to share. So I encourage you guys to come back next Monday. And thank you to Sabina for being here all the way from Savannah. We got our little donation box up here if you want to donate. And other than that, love you guys all. Thanks for being here. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Happy accident, thank you.